There we go. Okay, so I believe that we are now officially recording. I'm really excited that you've all joined us today, folks. Just a fun fact, we had about, I think, just over 200 invitees to this transfer community of practice from our IQ institutions, from our public four-year institutions, as well as across our 16 KCTCS institutions. And we had had so many that one of my colleagues actually asked if we wanted to swap to a webinar format for Zoom. And I said, no, Nan, we have to be able to see everybody's faces. Folks have to be able to see and interact with each other. We need a active chat going. So we have opted for perhaps a little bit of a messier Zoom format. But I do think it'll work out well for us. And I know we've got lots of friendly folks on the call. So my only housekeeping note with that in mind, folks, is to just be mindful of your mic. And if you're not speaking, try to keep your mic muted so that we don't experience too many disruptions. All right, sound good? Perfect. So for those of you who I've not had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Stephanie Chung, and I am the Associate Director of Transfer Strategy here with the Kentucky Student Success Collaborative, which is located within the larger organization that is CPE, or the Council on Post-Secondary Education. Now, I just recently joined the team in October of 2024, and prior to me joining CPE, I was working in my hometown of Toronto, Ontario, just neighboring north in Canada. And so I was really moving out of my comfort zone to come down to Kentucky with my husband and to start a new chapter. But I have been working in student affairs for some time now, and I just feel very humbled and honored to be connected with so many like-minded colleagues such as yourself. Now, today I have the pleasure of not only welcoming you to our kickoff COP, but also facilitating what I hope will be the first of many ongoing conversations of how we can work together to support transfer student success. And before I begin, hopefully you can see the slides full screen there. I just wanted to briefly walk through our agenda today. So all of you hopefully had received our email invitation outlining the agenda and what we wanted to cover in our meeting today. And we're going to start with some welcome and introductions. And then we're going to move into our brief abridged background on transfer in the state of Kentucky. Next, I would say our meat and potatoes of today's conversation is to allow each one of you to get to know each other a little bit better through a breakout group discussion. And we've got some lovely facilitators here that are going to help us to take some notes on what you are all interested in learning more about through our future COPs, as well as perhaps what some of the challenges are that you may be encountering in your work. Then we will end our session by reviewing our draft terms of reference, and that just provides an overview of what we hope our COP will look like, the frequency of our meeting dates, some upcoming topics for our future COP sessions, and then we will wrap up, share some additional announcements, and then close out for the afternoon. If you have questions about our agenda or something, a burning desire, a question or a comment that you would like to share with the group, you're more than welcome to use the chat feature or to get in touch with myself or any of the co-hosts via chat as well. And hopefully we'll find a way to incorporate that into our time today. And before I start, I'm going to invite my colleague Sandra to include a link to what is known as the feelings wheel in the chat for you all. Thank you, Sandra. And I would just like to invite folks to take a moment to click on the link there, select one or two, up to you, feelings that you're feeling at this moment as we begin our time together. I'm going to hopefully do the same. Okay, so you should see a very colorful wheel. This is from the Calm app. And you've got a whole variety of different emotions, from the more generic to the more specific. Just choose maybe one or two, and when you're ready, stick them in the chat. You don't have to justify them to anybody. There's no wrong answer. This will be we'll check in today. All right, there's some good ones in the chat. Thank you so much for doing that, folks. And continue to do so. Don't feel rushed if you need additional time to look at the wheel. There are a lot of options, but I wanted to share the reason why I've asked you to do that today. And the first reason is because I believe it's really important to have a moment to check in with ourselves, right? I think many of us, like I mentioned earlier, you may be on spring break. You may have just come from a back-to-back meeting. You may have just come from a very rushed lunch, right? And so I think it's important just to stay grounded in our work and to be mindful of how we're feeling in the moment and our own capacity to process the work in front of us, but also to give ourselves a chance to breathe and yeah, to reconnect with ourselves and our colleagues as we go about our work. The other thing that you may notice, folks, and this is why I said there's no wrong answer, is that people are coming into this meeting with a different mindset, right? Perhaps with a different approach or with different capacities, emotional bandwidths. So I think the second part of this exercise is to also acknowledge and remind ourselves to be kind and to be gentle with our colleagues, to acknowledge that they may have a different lived experience and perspective as us, and just to be respectful as we engage in our conversations today. So thank you so much for participating in that check-in. And of course, we can talk more about group norms throughout our time together. Okay, well, try and give a little thumbs up, see if that works in the Zoom, if you've been on a community of practice before, just out of curiosity. Roll through here. Okay, there we go. Looks like about maybe 30% of folks on this call today. So, you know, we don't need to do a deep dive into COPs, but I recognize that we all also have our own former experiences or current experiences of what a COP is, how it functions, and what it means. So just to keep us grounded in our context today, I wanted to share this graphic. I think, Sandra, this is something that you identified when we were meeting earlier. And Wenger, who is a scholar who studies social learning and has done a lot of work with COPs, has said that communities of practice are groups of people who share a concern or a passion for something they do and want to come together to learn how to do it better. And so I hope this cute little graphic there, and we will send out the slides, by the way, after our meeting today. So don't feel like you need to scribble down everything. But I hope this graphic helps to keep kind of a guidepost for us and what we can achieve together as we endeavor on this new journey. Lots of exciting work and opportunities to innovate, be creative, and support the best in each other. The next thing I wanted to do, folks, is just to quickly situate us in our conversation today. So being new to CPE myself, I certainly had several questions around, well, what is CPE? What is all the work that they do? How does it connect? How do I fit in? What does it all mean? Right? And from my conversations with folks, many of you may have similar questions. So I'm not the one to, want to make any assumptions. And that's why I wanted to take a step back and give you this big picture view of where we're situated in CPE. I will say this is very, very hot off the press. So my colleague, Ray, our HR, at CPE has okayed for me to share this with all of you, but she did want to note that our website will be updated shortly. So CPE is led by Dr. Erin Thompson, our president. We've got several different divisions or mega units, as some folks like to call them. And where we're currently located is within the Student Access and Success Division or mega unit, and then within the Kentucky Student Success Collaborative. So those of you who may be familiar with the collaborative's work, right, you'll notice these different strategy areas. Some of my colleagues who lead these strategy areas are present with us on this call and will be helping to facilitate some of our breakout rooms. And of course, we're located in that neat little transfer bucket there. So I hope this just very brief overview just helps to get you situated in this work and also maybe inspires you to explore some of CPE's other areas of practice as well. Okay. So for those of you interested in this abridged background on transfer in Kentucky, you will hopefully be satiated by some of the information on this slide. Again, as someone who's new to CPE and this work, it was fascinating for me to just look at the lengthy history of transfer work in Kentucky. Now, my pop quiz for you all today is, when do you think CPE was first established? If you want to take a stab at that pop quiz, you can put your responses in the chat. Somebody remind me if I don't get back to telling you the answer. But really, transfer work, as a history as lengthy as starting in 1977. There have been different groups convened to take a look at challenges to the model, strengths of the model, right? Senate joint resolutions that have been proposed. But really, it's the House Bill 160, right? That's been codified as KRS 164-2951 that lays our present framework as the guiding statute. And a lot of the work that we do today has come out of this particular statute. So in our more recent history, the Kentucky Student Success Collaborative was established as a department within CPE, and we primarily conduct our work through the James Graham Brown Foundation. So we've got a lot of different strategy areas, and we did release a transfer strategy in 2023 from which our additional projects and priorities have grown out of, including our present COP. So I don't want to read the full slide through today, but I welcome you to take a look at it after our call if you're interested. These are the 3 strategic objectives that are part of the transfer strategy, and I hope it gives you an idea or a taste of some flavor for the language that is used and the broad strokes strategic objectives of our work. All right. Now, a lot of folks, I think, that I've met over the course of the last several months who have looked at the transfer strategy have also asked, okay, Stephanie, what does the transfer work look like in the day-to-day, right? I've read the strategy or I understand the overarching vision and objectives, but what are the key project areas that you're starting to work on? And so I've indicated each summarized on this slide for you all. We are working on developing a data dashboard to highlight some of our key performance indicators for transfer student success across the state. Our next project focuses on student voice research. And so we recently released a request for proposal where we're looking to connect with a faculty researcher who will explore why students who have obtained an associate degree did not go on to transfer within 1 year of graduation. So the dashboard gives us our quantitative data, and our student voice research gives us some of our qualitative feedback on the state of transfer in Kentucky. Our third area of priority is the community of practice. So here we are, finally, with our kickoff session after many, many months of preparation. We also have network improvement communities that take place in partnership with NASH. And NICs are really about leveraging improvement science and continuous improvement to strengthen institutional partnerships. So typically this looks like a partnership between a 2- and 4-year institution, going through various tests of change, reviewing their policies and their practices to support transfer success. And finally, our North Star in the transfer strategy is about those statewide transfer pathways. So really thinking about how we can clarify or simplify academic pathways and remove barriers to student success by supporting credit mobility and credit articulation. So again, hopefully that gives you a little bit more specifics, if you will, on some of the tangible areas of practice that our transfer team is currently focusing on. Now, with all that said, very little, I think, of this work would be possible without a larger team of staff, support, and senior fellows. So I did want to give a quick shout out to our transfer senior fellows for 24-25. We've got John Hall from Northern Kentucky University, Matt Bergman from U of L, Sandra Kimberlane, who's co-hosting with me today from ECTC, Beth Collins, who was formerly in my position and now works with Teach for America Appalachia, and the lovely Lisa Cox from EKU. I did want to note, folks, that we typically release our, what do you call them? Job postings for senior fellows, usually once a year. And we do intend on sharing those postings with you all in the future as well. So if you are interested in a part-time role with CPE or lending your expertise to the work of transfer or any of the other strategy areas identified on a previous slide, do keep an eye out for that as well. The date or the year, folks, that CPE was established, I have it here. Did anybody take a guess in the chat? D. Parker, you said 1981. Lisa, 1960. Chris Jensen. Okay, Chris Jensen nailed it. So it's 1934. This was just the honor system, folks, but it is on CPE's website. So if you go to CPE's website under About Us, you'll see it was established in 1934, coming up on 100 years. And like I mentioned, a long history of work in higher ed, partnership, advocacy, and transfer work as well. All right. So on this slide, folks, you'll just get a better idea, and I'm sure you have a great idea already, of the uniqueness of the transfer student experience, right? All of our students are so different. All of our institutions are very different. And I encourage you to keep these various factors in mind as we continue our conversations around how to best support not only our students, but also our transfer teams. And that includes our staff, our faculty members, and our community members as we try to navigate different contexts, politics, procedures, but also share our best practices, our learnings, and our insights so that we can move the needle on transfer student success. Alrighty, well, I think I've spoken long enough for this first little bit. The next part of our time together, as I mentioned earlier, is really for you all to get to know each other better through our breakout rooms. So I'm going to invite Sandra to issue the breakout room invitation for you all. We've got 54 attendees. Sandra, I think we have 8 or so facilitators, so it's maybe, is that 8 groups of 7?
Yeah, there's 9.
Something like that.
So it'll be about 5 or 6 folks per room.
I think so, yes. Folks, you'll have 20 minutes, so hopefully that gives you some good time to introduce yourself. I'm asking you to talk about your name and your role in transfer student success, maybe what brings you into this work. What do you hope to gain by attending the COP, right? How can we add value to you, your lives, your work? But also, conversely, what would you like to contribute to our community? Right? And try to get specific. Maybe you have a special skill set, a talent, a strength that you've been waiting to leverage, right? You can get creative. And I have asked our facilitators to just take some notes for us in Scribe so that we can update our community of practice, networking, contact list, and so that your responses can also inform our future programming together. All right. Okay, Sandra, how is it looking? See if I can give you a hand.
Just have to assign the co-host, I think, and then push everybody out.
Okay.
Hey, Stephanie, could you drop the questions in the chat, please?
Sure, I will do that.
Stephanie, I'll do that. You can assign the co-host.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so you should see the pop-up come on your screen shortly. If you were asked to facilitate or co-host, just please hold on accepting the invite and we will move you in accordingly.
Stephanie, did you need me to help? Are you good?
Hey, Amy,
Hey,
let me just take a look at who we've got here.
okay.
D is good for 2. Room 3. There you go. Room 4, Tyra's in. Room 5. Okay. There you go. Amy, I think you're good for 7. They don't look like they have one. So if you go to 7.
Okay, got it.
Thank you.
Stephanie, same happy to help if you need it. If not, I'll join.
Thanks so much, Tracy. I will put you in. I'll put you in Amy's group. Room 7. And when you do take notes, Tracy, try to take down the name of the individual speaking as well, so we know we can trace back whose strengths and whose interests are whose. Thank you so much for doing that. Andra, I'll put you in room 2, or can you join room 2? She might be frozen. Lisa, I'll throw you in room 2. Oh, hold on. No, Lisa, you're good for room 6. She there? There you go.
It's got me going to 1. I'm fine to go to 1, but it doesn't, I can't get in 7.
Okay, that's fine. I'll pop into 7 then. Thanks, Tracy.
Yep, sure.
Lisa, did you get stuck? Oh, you're on mute.
I had clicked, I'd been invited to 6, so that's what I was clicking on. And then you said to join room 2. So I wasn't quite sure where you wanted me to go. Sorry.
Sorry. Join the one that you have on. That's fine. Yeah, I think they're waiting
Okay.
for somebody.
I apologize. I'm not sure how to join now.
Okay, you're good. Hold on.
Okay, thank you.
Or I'll put you in room 2. Let's try that.
Thank you.
Welcome back, everybody. We're just waiting on maybe 1 or 2 more breakout rooms. I think we're all back. There we go. Success. I do see some more smiles on the screen, which is nice. I always think it's more exciting to listen to a variety of voices speak and not just the one, big talking head in the room. If you have me pinned as the big screen, just go ahead and switch it to gallery view. Okay, because that's less intimidating for me and you get to see all your lovely colleagues. So, hey Dee, good to see you. Let me share my screen again. Okay, is that coming up all right for everybody? Perfect. So folks, I certainly learned a lot from the folks that I met, and we are going to continue to have conversations, breakout rooms as appropriate in the coming months. So don't feel like you lost your chance, or if you want to connect with folks, there is going to be many more opportunities. What you see on the screen here, I pulled from the Wenger trainer website, and I had that quote from Wenger on an earlier slide about what is a COP. This is something I am going to share with you all as a resource after our time together today. I'll share via email. I can post to the Impact Exchange. But what Sandra and I found particularly interesting and helpful were all these different ways in which Wenger identified COPs can be helpful to individual practitioners. So I want you to take a look at the 3 examples on the screen. Right? We've got problem solving, and they even have these little quotes of phrases you might find yourself asking or wanting to ask, right? Can we work on this design and brainstorm some ideas? I'm stuck, right? Documenting projects. Oh my God, we have faced this problem 5 times, 10 times, 20 times now, right? Can we write it down as a process once and for all? Identifying gaps in competence. Right? Who knows what in this area, right? Whose expertise in what is where? What are we missing? What other groups should we connect with? What speakers might we want to pull in to better inform us on this particularly nuanced or technical aspect of our work? So I found those examples really helpful to guide my thinking around the possibilities of the COP. And again, this is just a sneak peek on their website. I think they've got about 10 or 12 different such examples, right? Including, hey, that was really interesting. Could we plan for a site visit? Can our teams connect either virtually or in person outside the COP? So I encourage you all to take a look at that as well after our meeting today. All right. With that said, folks, COPs are not without their challenges. And if you know me, you'll know I do think it's important to express and be able to touch on both sides of what is working or could work well, and also what's not working or may present as a challenge. So here you'll see some common challenges with COPs include having to drive engagement and momentum, right? Building, establishing trust and relationship building, as well as sustaining and measuring our impact. So I've shared a few different examples that Sandra and I, through conversation or through work with our senior fellows or through meeting with you all in different events and spaces, have indicated as things that may be helpful as we begin our journey together in this COP. And what I want you to take away from this slide, hopefully, is that we really do want to approach our time together with intentionality, right? Not just meeting because, oh, it's that time again, right? Buckle up, but framing it with value in mind. And that's exactly why we want to set out some time as we had today for you all to express what you're interested in, what your challenges are, and also what strengths you bring to the table. I will note on that last one for our group in particular, seems like we have a little bit more work to do to better identify and express and celebrate our strengths. Because transfer is such nuanced work, I think sometimes it's hard to do so. And so we had some very maybe humble folks going, oh, I don't know about my strengths, right? Their challenges are sometimes easy to identify, but strengths not so much. So maybe that's something we can all encourage each other to practice as we move forward, because I know we have them. It's just connecting the dots sometimes and finding the confidence in ourselves to try something and then to lend that expertise to our colleagues as well. Okay, so the next thing I want to do, folks, and we are approaching the latter part of our time together, is I talked about the terms of reference earlier today. So I'm going to invite Sandra to include the link in the chat right on time, Sandra. Thank you. And I am going to share my screen so we can walk through that here as well. Okay. Are folks seeing the Google Doc now? Okay, thanks so much, folks. And we've got I always thought it was cute how they have these anonymous animals if you're joining us online. So terms of reference for folks whom this may be new is essentially your reference document for what the purpose of this group is, what we're hoping to achieve through our group meetings, and then, like I mentioned earlier, some logistics around parameters, right? Or parameters around logistics, rather. So the frequency of our meeting and things of that nature. Again, I won't walk through or do a verbatim read through, but we did provide a background here on how the COP builds on our existing transfer work in the state of Kentucky. I've heard a lot of feedback from colleagues, including many folks on this call today, that there are just so many groups, right? And so we started our meeting today, remember, by taking a look at CPE's organizational chart, situating ourselves in student access and success, the work of the collaborative, the strategy areas. And now this COP is our newest edition of a space for everybody to convene. So you can be a transfer direct practitioner. You may not work directly in transfer, but be a champion of this work, or may be curious about how it may impact your day-to-day work. You might also know somebody who might find this interesting or helpful, and you're welcome to invite them as well. Before I forget, I wanted to note that I think it's College Source, right? Sandra, they host they don't call it a COP, they call it a Let's Talk Transfer meeting. And that is at the national level, kind of like a COP nationally across the US. And they also meet every other month and had about, I think, 100 or 120 or so folks at their last call. So there are these pockets in these spaces, but hopefully through things like terms of references, right, we're able to remember, keep track of, and know exactly why we're meeting and what we want to get out of it. So I'm just going to briefly scroll through this document, right? We've got our background, we've got our purpose. Let me zoom in a little bit. Whoa, too much. Okay.
Stephanie, while you're scrolling, I'll throw in the College Source community of practice for folks if they want to join that one as well, since it's a
Thanks so
national
much.
focus.
Yes, thank you so much, Sandra. All right, so we've got our purpose there. Spoke about this today, right? Sharing best practices, offering support and encouragement, a space to commiserate, a space to support, celebrate success. Now, folks, we have set out our meetings at a bi-weekly or every other month frequency. But after our call today, we will issue a poll and also a feedback form. So if you would like to convene more frequently or feel like we should convene less frequently, I mean, this is all TBD depending on group interest, right? So please, I hope you feel empowered and encouraged to vocalize your needs and including how frequently you'd like to meet, or even the length of such meetings. All right, we've got our membership, like I mentioned, pretty open. I'll be sharing out minutes, additional resources after our time together, posting them online to the Impact Exchange as well. It's an online resource hub. So really the only expectation, if you can even call it that, of our group members is to contribute actively, provide feedback, support one another, adhere to group norms, right? The purpose is not to necessarily give homework to folks, but to convene around mutual objectives. So again, happy to determine those together. Okay, we've got some funky formatting on Google Docs. This was originally a Word document, but we will clean that up. I mean, terms of references can sometimes also be living documents. So the reason why I did put it up on a Google Doc for folks today is because if you have comments or feedback, you'll have several avenues, right? You can share via our meeting through the anonymous feedback form, or feel free to just comment directly on the doc. I wanted to make sure you had various options for what works best for you. And so if you, even if as I'm speaking, you want to pop in a comment, please feel free to do so. We'll strive for consensus. If we ever do need to make a decision, I mean, I don't anticipate any formal voting or things like that, but I know we'll strive to seek common ground, to listen to different perspectives, to brainstorm new ideas and initiatives together. If we do need to branch out into a more specific work group to tackle a specific issue or project, we can do that as well. And then I have a little blurb on evaluation and revisiting some of the feedback folks share via the post-meeting surveys and any other feedback we receive through our COP, so that we can continue to tailor it to meet your needs and make sure this time brings value to your work. And then at the end there, we've just got the very, very early beginnings, the skeleton of our COP networking contact list. So after a meeting today, I'll reconnect with our co-hosts, breakout room facilitators, and hopefully we can start populating this with some of your areas of interest so that you all can connect with each other as well during or outside the COP. So any questions about the TOR? Oh, take a look at the chat. Just from Sandra. Thank you, Sandra. Okay, everybody. Well, I'm going to hop back over to our slides. There we go. We've got looking ahead. So folks, on this slide, you'll just get an idea of some of our upcoming programming. Our next session takes place in May of 2025. We hope to talk to you a little bit more about transfer data. And one of the action items I have for you on an upcoming slide, we'll go into a little bit more depth on what that means. We will be inviting CPE's data and advanced analytics team to talk a little bit more about publicly available data to support you in your work, how we may be able to apply it to our work. We will review our Understanding Transfer Data Together survey results, and you'll see the link on the following slide. Talk about just this is the term I've used, but it can be called something else, just the encyclopedia of transfer data. There is data, folks, as you may know, at the national level, at the state level, and at the local level at each of your individual institutions. So I know it can be a lot to navigate, right? What source you use for what statistic, which is most important to inform you in your work. And hopefully our session in May can help to start some of those, or continue rather, some of those important conversations. And then we can move into more in-depth discussion and also some case studies. Now, on the right-hand side of this slide, you'll also see our upcoming sessions. We will feature the Futurity team, and they'll come to speak to us about that website, how it relates to transfer. In September, we can talk a little bit about NICS. And then in November, looking back and moving forward to 2026. So this is a very high-level programmatic agenda, folks. Again, if you express a desire or an interest for another topic related or completely different, if you express a desire to lead one of our or co-facilitate one of our upcoming COP sessions, really everything is kind of up for grabs on the table, and happy to connect with you on those ideas as well. Okay. Okay, so here's our wrap-up slide, folks. I do have some homework for you, but it doesn't take very long. And the idea is that it will, again, be a small step towards bringing you more value during our future meetings. So I've asked Sandra to paste this, thank you so much, Sandra, into the chat. The first is just a feedback survey. And please, folks, don't see this as an obligation, okay? I invite you to see it as an opportunity if you so desire. There are a couple questions and just what your thoughts are for our meeting today, what you would like to see covered in future sessions. Again, it's always anonymous unless you choose to indicate otherwise, or if you want Sandra and I to follow up with you on something specific. The next is our meeting poll. So we had just kind of picked a date out of the hat. Next time we'll make sure not to do it on spring break. But we would love your feedback on when we should meet next. We had tentatively planned to go every other month, but again, the National College Source Let's Talk Transfer COP, they also meet every month on the odd number as we had planned. So we might switch to the even number months just so you can attend a session every month and kind of, you know, stay in touch that way without feeling overwhelmed. But at least for the day of the week, time of the day, please fill in that poll. All right. And then number 3 is our understanding transfer data together. So this is just a quick little survey on your thoughts around data. What metrics or statistics are most important to you? What is your own level of comfort with accessing data or analyzing or applying data, right? So we can get a better idea of what to focus on during our next session. There is just so much out there. And I know for a fact that I'm not the only person who feels overwhelmed. So maybe you don't know what's out there, or maybe you do, but it's not, you know, accessible to download or to read, right? Maybe you can access it, download and read it, but you don't know how to analyze it, or you've analyzed it, but you don't know how to apply it. So our hope is that we're able to walk through that journey together, and we are going to start from asking all of you where you feel like you land, again, anonymously, unless you choose to indicate otherwise, and we will review together the aggregate results of that survey at the start of our next meeting to inform those conversations. Okay, number 4, please let me know, or let Sandra know, if you are opting out of the Transfer COP networking list. So if something you shared, you didn't want included on the networking list, yeah, any concerns about that, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. I think we made it, folks, to our checkout. I know that was hopefully not too much to fit into the hour. I would like to invite you all again just to check back into the feelings wheel. Sandra will pop the link in the chat, and just share a couple words on how you're feeling as we close out our time together today. It could even be, it doesn't even have to be on the wheel. It could be something else. All right. Thanks so much, folks. Now that we've reached the end of our time together, I feel like it is going to be a long time before we see each other again in 2 months, but fear not. If you do want to connect or just talk to myself, Sandra, or any one of our senior fellows, or even your breakout room facilitator, you're more than welcome to reach out. I just have some of our contacts on this slide. So yeah, thank you so much for your open-mindedness, for taking some time out of your day to try something new. And Sandra, why don't we hang on the call in case anybody wants to stay behind and chat? But otherwise, you know, I'll be in touch via email with some next steps, our minutes, our resources. Feel free to share those with your colleagues. Thanks so much again, and hopefully we'll see you at the next one.
Thank you, everybody.